Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome. My name's Alison Stewart and I'm your host of this session of Cut the Crop. And today I have two guests, Methven mixed arable farmer John McCaw, and then we're going to talk to Chris Smith, our technology manager. But we're going to start off with John because you have a seed cleaning business, John, and we're going to talk about seed dressing losses. And then we're going to bring Chris in and we're going to talk about combine harvester setup as a means to impact on seed dressing losses. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Alison. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So let's just start off with exactly what is a dressing loss and how do we measure it?
Okay, so dressing loss is the difference between the field dressed or FD sample, and that's what comes off the combine harvester, and the machine dressed final sample, and it's the weight difference. So it's expressed as a percentage and it's based on weight. And that's an important distinction because a 20% dressing loss could equate to a 40% reduction in volume of the crop. And that product that's removed is generally weed seeds, it's empty glooms, it's husks, and it's straw and that sort of thing that you don't want in the crop.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is an average seed dressing loss for, say, something like ryegrass? And, you know, are we getting better or worse? I mean, where do we sit at the moment compared to previous losses?
So for ryegrass, I would say the dressing loss should sit between 10 and 15% as a rule of thumb. You can be below 10, you can obviously be above 15, but if you're below 10, you've got to be on your game. You know, you're doing a really good job with your combine, but there is a risk that you might be losing too much good seed over the back. And if you're above 15, something's probably not quite right. And that could be weather related. You know, there's a lot of factors outside of the operator's control. And sometimes you just have to keep pushing. That should be sort of the ranges where it should be, but what we actually see is anything from 5% to 50%. So huge variation. In our McCaw Seeds business, we went back through a couple of years, and it varies on the season, but the average for the last 3 years has been around 19%. But as I say, within that, there's some pretty extreme cases.
Okay. And I mean, given you know, the sophistication of modern sort of combines, wouldn't you expect that things would be getting better generally?
So the interesting thing is that combines aren't made to harvest grass seed. They can do it, they can harvest all sorts of things, but they're designed primarily to harvest grain and maize, and we make them do all these other things. So they are very sophisticated, they are very efficient. But sometimes I wonder whether that technology, we're becoming too reliant on that technology. So it's great to have a button to push and have automatic settings for ryegrass. That's a really good starting point as your settings that written in a book from last year. But that is a starting point. And so then you need to actually set that combine for the day, for the crop. In fact, you may need to set it during the day if the conditions change. And it's having the skill and the confidence to make those changes. And I wonder whether the next generation of farmers coming through are losing some of those skills and confidence that maybe the older generation had. And I don't know whether that's because of the reliance on technology or not, but the combines are bigger and the rotary combines are particularly efficient for grain. But what we find is, and particularly if it's damp conditions, you have to spin the rotor quickly to throw that seed clear of the straw. And when you do that, you break the straw up and you get short straws in the sample. And you can look at a seed sample and say, it was done with a rotary combine. And they're becoming more prevalent. So I suspect that might have something to do with it.
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about, you know, potentially real substantial money going down the drain. I mean, you talked about, you know, anywhere between 5% and 50%. I mean, I would be, if I was a grower, I'd be pretty worried if I was getting 40 or 50% losses.
Yeah, I think it's important to try and do the best possible job that you can in the field. And there's sort of two things about it. One is if you getting 40% dressing loss, that's kind of devastating, especially if you didn't realise you were going to get 40% dressing loss. But more than that, you actually lose good seed when you are dressing out contaminants, particularly if the contaminant you're after is similar to the seed you're wanting to keep. And so if it was the same size or length or colour or weight, then you end up taking a portion of good seed with the contaminant. So it's not a good strategy to put everything in the tank, give it to the seed cleaner and say, yes, sort this out, because you're going to lose more good seed on the seed dresser. But also you're removing a lot of fertility and there's drying and cartage and storage costs involved and removing all of that extra product from the field. So it's quite inefficient. So if you think about it, if you had a 25% dressing loss, 1 in 4 truckloads of product going to the seed dressing plant goes pretty much to the dump. So we all know how hard it is to get product into a seed store during the harvest. We're all trying to clear our drying floors at once and keep going. So, it's the ramifications of getting it wrong are tying up the supply chain, and it could be so much more efficient if we could just bring these dressing losses back by, halve the dressing loss. That would make a tremendous difference for everyone.
So what can growers do to minimise these dressing losses?
There's quite a few different aspects. I mean, obviously setting the combine is the obvious primary one, and that is really important. I think the focus should be on doing the best possible job you can in the field, and a well-set combine will lose some seed over the back. That's inevitable. So therefore, if you focus entirely on reducing your losses from your combine, you're going to end up with a rubbishy sample. So it's a bit of a compromise, but just remember that good seed always makes its own way to the tank. So combine settings, and particularly blast. And there's a tool that Hamish Maher was talking about at a recent field day, and I think it's so simple, it's so clever, it's really good. It's a DLF trifolium thing that they were doing in Denmark, he saw and brought back. So over there, they give the growers a 10-litre bucket, or a 20-litre bucket in fact, and on the side of the bucket it says the minimum weight for each type of seed that would be delivered to the DLF store. So for example, ryegrass, the bucket must weigh X amount full of ryegrass. So he used that, brought it back down to a 5-litre bucket, bought electric scales, and has that in the combine. And at 3 different combines, in this case doing cocksfoot in the field, all doing a different result. And they used that system to get all 3 producing the same quality of seed and reduce their dressing losses. So that's something I think FAR might be going to pick up, but it's a really good tool. But I think the key take-home message would be that you should think of the seed cleaner as the goalie. So if you get a bad result at the seed cleaner, it had to get past 10 other players first. So the problem is in the field, it's not in the goal. And so therefore, the things that you can do as a farmer come back down to the field. So that starts with field selection, seed bed preparation. Don't give up on the plough. Ploughing for ryegrass is a really good idea because you bury a lot of seed and you don't have the same wheat seed issues. Crop husbandry, weed control, obviously, roguing, not only in season but between seasons. So if you see ryegrass in your wheat, for goodness sake, go and pull it out. Combine hygiene, auger hygiene, straw management in the wintertime, feeding out straw and things like that, and obviously harvest technique, cutting timing and things. But one really easy, low-hanging fruit that growers constantly missed is that the majority of weeds are around the margin of the outside of the paddock. So don't harvest them, or if you are going to harvest it, keep it separate. If it's going to be a winter feed crop, then you don't want to spray it out. Just mow it repeatedly and don't let it seed. But if you put it through the combine, you spread it out in your field for next year, and you contaminate the seed lot, and you will invariably end up with a higher dressing loss.
Oh, okay. So, and you've noticed that from experience.
Yeah. So on our farm, we do all those things, roguing, and we're particularly difficult growing cocksfoot and ryegrass, and so we have to manage the field as if it's got cocksfoot in it every year and make sure we don't feed ryegrass straw out, those sorts of things. A big emphasis on roguing. spraying fence lines, keeping them clean. And then, if we see brome grass or whatever coming, we'll try and knapsack it out. If we can't, we'll simply keep mowing those bits of the field, and we won't put it through the combine. But it seems really obvious, but a lot of people just put it through the header, and that could be because a contractor cut the field, and then once it's all in a row, it all looks the same and goes through the header. But it's a false economy to put that stuff through the header, because it's going to end up with a higher dressing loss for sure.
Yeah. Oh, lots of good pointers there. And we're going to catch up with Chris Smith next. So thank you very much. And let's see what FAR can do to try and support growers in reducing their seed lossing. Great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alison.
Great. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so we've heard from John McCaw, and now we're going to have a chat to Chris Smith, our technology manager. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Alison.
Okay, and we're going to talk about this year's round of combine harvester setup days, because of course we ran a series of days beginning of the year.
It was last December.
Yeah,
and then they came back again in Jet.
So what are we going to do this year, and how many are we going to do, and what are they going to cover?
Yep. So we are covering the North Island as well this year. We're actually we're starting off in the North Island on the 4th of December. We're in Martinborough. So we're going to Colton Brothers there. And on the same day, because there's no John Deere combines down in that area, to make the most of the John Deere guy, we're actually going to have one at John Austin's as well, near Hamilton, on the same day. So we'll be running those two consecutively at the same time. Yeah. And then after that, we've got another one on the 6th at Palmerston North at Giles Douglas's. And we've got all the machines there, so that's quite a relief. And then on the 9th of December, we have one down at the Levels at Harry Washington's. And then on the 10th, we go down to Pete Mitchell's down in North Otago. Again, we've got issues with no John Deere's down there. So we're actually running another day at the same time over at Tom and James Waddle's, just purely for John Deere combines. And then on the 11th, we go to Earl Worsfield's, and that's the last one. And then once we've got those done, they come back again about February time. Yeah. Any growers who want to see them, they'll actually sign on the day. We'll be doing a questionnaire, and if anybody wants to visit when the guys come back, we'll be going out on farm when they're combining and actually see what they've done, what they're doing, and how we can help them.
So what's the focus this time?
The focus is pretty much the same, because it's a new area we'll be covering efficiencies and losses, knowing where your losses are coming from. But as well as that, we're actually going to be looking in the grain tank a bit more. And by looking at what's coming out the back and what you've got in your tank, helping them just fine tune the actual machines a lot more. We've had John McCaw, as Mona said, been looking at differences between the seed quality and what's going into the dressing plants and things like that, and what we can do on the combine, because the combine's just a starting point. It might say ryegrass, press the button, and it's only a starting point, but some people are not keeping that setting, rather than actually using it as a point to actually start adjusting things up and seeing what's happening. So we just need to try and just make that people are aware of, okay, it's in the tank, but if it's a dirty sample, there's implications and there's knock-on effects for that further down the line, and trying to get it as clean as you can when you can.
And it's the same team from Australia that are coming over again? Yes,
so we've got Brett Asfer, who does the class machines and also case. So we've got Murray Skaman, who's coming from Canada. He does New Holland and also case. And then we have Cassie van der Westhausen, who's the John Deere specialist. They're all independent guys. They've got their own companies. They do their own bits and pieces. And then we've got Pete Broley, who's basically the facilitator for the guys, and he's from primary sales, who's actually they sell grain pans, but his job is basically just to keep the guys together and just actually make sure it all runs smoothly along with us.
Yeah. So, obviously last year we got a lot of positive feedback on those combine harvester workshops that we did. What kind of feedback were you getting around the benefit that growers got from coming along?
Absolutely. We had some great feedback from some guys. If I'm just talking broadly rather than giving specific names, we had one guy who went from doing 20 hectares a day of barley up to 30 hectares a day. And he actually normally gets about 10 to 11 tonnes a hectare. And last year he had about 12.7. So not only was he getting a bigger yield, he was actually doing more in a day by actually making adjustments to his machine and actually putting the extra add-on bits and things onto it. We had another farmer down in Southland who took about 70 hours off his harvest by actually making changes and be able to increase his productivity. We had another guy over near sort of Oxford area who reduced his fuel consumption by about 30%. A lot of guys, it was just about opening up the machines and actually helping them to work sort of better and getting better samples and sort of using less fuel. And once they got to a sweet point, seeing how far they could actually push the forward speed by monitoring the losses and actually saying, okay, I can carry on increasing. So they got to the point where they said, well, actually now my losses are starting to increase. That's the point I'll stop. But it meant they've got their tons per hour going up and their production going up, and just educating on just making sure the whole system inside the machine is square. Even if it's 2 mils higher on one side than the other, that can be 5 tons an hour difference in the actual sort of productivity of the combine. So it's about just the whole thing. But what amazed me is we went to see some growers after we'd done the field days, when we went out at harvest, and some of them had been in there with a grinder and they'd cut bits out quite happily and made all these changes. And I was going, whoa! But they'd made improvements. We got guys going from 40 tons to 50 tons an hour and that sort of stuff. And another grower said, well, he was going to change his combine, but because he's got more output out of it now, he's going to keep it for a few more years. So some really positive, really good results coming out of it.
And we know that, if you have any piece of machinery involved in a FAR event, the growers will come. So how many, are you going to restrict attendance at these events?
They are restricted to about 80 or 90. Probably the biggest one will be the Canterbury one, but the other ones I don't think will have an issue. There'll be enough room for those. But if you want to go to the one that's at sort of in mid Canterbury, sign up now, I'd say definitely, because the time, and then once that one's full, the next nearest one's going to be sort of Timaru. So get your name down on the list now.
So how do people sign up?
So if they go to the FAR website, it's on the events. What the difference thing we've got there now this year is we've actually put on there the maker machine as well. So we can actually see what makes the machine people have got and things like that as well. So before the guys get there, they'll get a good idea of what the sort of differences of the machines are we're going to be getting at the site. And then once they all turn up on the day, we'll have a questionnaire for them to fill in as well, which is just how they found the day and any challenges they've got. So we've got some more information to work on for when they come back in sort of January, February time.
Yeah. And so you're signing up for both? You're signing up for the pre-Christmas and the post-Christmas?
No, just the pre-Christmas. The post-Christmas, we'll wait until we know the numbers more, and then we'll get the guys over and just seeing how weather patterns are going and things like that.
Yeah.
Because last year we nearly missed it. It was just we ended up having to go down to Southland first and come back up here because we were in between crops. So it's a juggling act trying to get the timings right with the harvest as well.
Yeah, but it's worth it because it is something that the growers really respond positively to.
Absolutely. And when they get the actual guys down to their actual machine and saying, well, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed, and talking to the growers, because the growers have got as many answers as these guys. The growers know our crops better than these guys go, but these guys just know the machines really well. Yeah.
Excellent. So, growers, if you want to go to any of those, get onto the FAR website, find out the one that is best for you and get registered. Thank you very much, Chris.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, listeners. Have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.